Okay, my loves. I know there are a lot of you that are out there that are really wondering, how do I even set boundaries anymore? Maybe you didn't grow up with great boundaries. Maybe boundaries weren't really modeled well for you, or maybe you were told that you cannot have boundaries. Maybe you're tired of being gaslighted in your relationships, and you're tired of feeling crazy all the time and guilty for trying to make a difference in your life. If this is you, then I want you to come schedule a call with me. Let's chat about the Unashamed Image Program. The Unashamed Image Program is geared towards you specifically. I am going to be helping you in our next upcoming session of the Unashamed Image. I am personally going to train you how to not feel crazy when someone is gaslighting you, how to be able to stand your ground, to keep your boundaries intact, and to also see through the bull crap. I am also going to be teaching you how to set really confident boundaries that you can really rely on. And I'm going to help you communicate them in a way that really makes sense. Basically, I'm going to help you live a life free of shame and on your terms. If you are ready and you are done feeling all the shame and guilt for trying to set boundaries, if you are not willing to live another moment the way you are right now and in somebody else's shadow, then this is the time to schedule that call with me. It's completely free, no pressure, just love, just support. Go to www.erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. Scroll down the page to where it says, Let's Chat About Working Together. Click on that button and it'll take you to my booking page. If you're ready to live the unashamed life, schedule that call. Let's get you in the Unashamed Image Program, my loves. From my heart to your heart. Bye. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle by Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching. I'm Erin Anderson, your host. If you're just joining this podcast, we talk about how I healed from my betrayal trauma and some of the things I've learned along the way as I continue to heal and as I coach other men and women through their traumas. Now, before we dive into this week's episode, let me tell you a little bit about how you can contact me. I have a few free Facebook groups. One of the groups are for women who are going through betrayal trauma due to a husband's addiction. In this group, women are able to voice how they feel about the struggle they are going through with the addiction, find a camaraderie of other women going through similar situations, get some detailed coaching from me, plus any other events or offers that I have going on. You can find me there at www.facebook.com/groups/the other side of the struggle. Or if you're looking for a place where you and your spouse can connect, have other really brilliant minds and coaches, therapists alike, I have some great colleagues that you can chat with as well as me in the group Positive Healing for LDS Marriages and Relationships, www.facebook.com/groups/Positive Healing for LDS Marriages and Relationships. I also have a Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Better Than the Betrayal. You can also find me on Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coach on Instagram, or you can also find me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Erin-the Trauma Coach. So, I have been promising a gift for a while for my listeners. It's ready to give away. I'm so excited. If you are ready to understand how your trauma is actually a building block to how amazing you are, not the wrecking ball, then download my free Heart of Gold meditation. In this meditation, it will take you through a deeper understanding of how a difficult trauma can help you realize how strong you are. All of those pieces of your heart that are broken because of the trauma and because of the pain you have gone through are actually being healed together by gold. So, this is also one of my first meditations that I ever went through to regain my self-confidence, to understand how amazing I truly am, and how each one of the things that happen in my life, whether good or bad, are things that are shaping me for who I truly am and helping me see my mission and purpose and live my paradise life. So if you would like that, and if you want to gain a deep love and appreciation for yourself, then this meditation is just for you. And when you realize that the heart beating inside of your chest is truly an inspiration that is guiding your life and helping you build your paradise life with self-confidence that's difficult to shake, I think you will love this freebie. So go and download it at https://erinanderson.kartra.com/page/heart of gold. And don't worry, I will make sure to link that in the description below. With that, let's dive into this week's episode. What's up, guys? I am so excited that you're here to join us for another fantastic episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. And if you've been following us this far, you know that we've been talking about how to live your best life without the trauma, without the stuff that other people can place on you. And that's really important, because we cannot create our highest and best lives if we are constantly stuck under the controlling thumb of trauma. Now, as you guys have heard me last week, we talked about the 4 main boundaries that I set with myself, which are the love boundary, the forgiveness boundary, the trust boundary, and organize boundary. And last week we talked about the love boundary and how I can use that boundary to help me figure out who I am and live that person's life, right? But I also want to mention here that I think it's really important that you figure out what love is to you, because that's going to be your core values. And you're going to treat yourself that way. You're going to treat other people that way. And you're going to find that you can live a life full of joy and no shame. But consider too, like, at your core, what love truly is and what you can connect it to. It's kind of like the plug cord to a lamp. You're the lamp, but the cord has to plug into the right outlet in order for the lamp to work. So consider your source. Consider your source of love, and then you need to pattern what that love boundary is going to look like to you. So, but today I wanted to talk about the forgiveness boundary. And guys, this one is huge. When I figured out what forgiveness was, oh my goodness, it changed so many things. So many things, because as I said last week, you know, the love boundary is the boundary you operate in, and the forgiveness boundary is the boundary that protects that ability to operate in love. It's kind of a protection boundary, okay? And the trust boundary is outside of even the forgiveness boundary, because people that are on the outside of that boundary,
they can pass through all of the other boundaries, the forgiveness boundary and the love boundary, and happily live with you in your love boundary. And on the outside of even that is the organization boundary, because how you set up your life, how you structure it, how you structure your home, the way that you live, the thoughts, like it all requires organization in order to work. And how you structure that will invite certain people to even come close to those boundaries. So it's a very, very set system. But today, like I said, we're talking about the forgiveness boundary, and get ready, my friends, to have your minds blown. So when I was learning about forgiveness, it was at a time in my life when I felt like my relationships did not understand me, and they were just out to get me. They were out for blood. And I remember thinking often that I was the only black sheep in lots and lots of white sheep. And even though I was black, nobody could see me because of the black sheepness. And I also remember describing my life like my foot was caught in the stirrup of a runaway horse, and I was hitting every branch, every root, every rock, everything along that path. I was getting bruised, broken, and bloodied, and we were headed for a cliff, and I could see it. And I couldn't free myself. Like, there was nothing I could do. I couldn't stop the horse, Anyway, you get the idea. But forgiveness changed all of that. Like, and I used to be afraid of forgiveness because I used to think that forgiveness meant that we just acted like it never happened. That what this person said or did, or the way they showed up in our lives, or the way they hurt us, etc., we just acted like it didn't happen again, and therefore leaving us vulnerable to more attacks and more pain and less joy, while that person had no consequences whatsoever for their behavior. That couldn't be farther from the truth. But that good old adversary, I shouldn't call him good, but that old adversary, he is very crafty at what he does to keep us miserable, to keep us in pain. And so he has sold this image of forgiveness, and we have bought it hook, line, and sinker. Because that's what we've been told our whole life, that's what forgiveness is, and it's not. Absolutely not. What forgiveness is it's an understanding of the atonement of Jesus Christ, or a true understanding of love, I should say, and justice. It's a true understanding of love and justice and how you operate within that. So let me explain, okay? Jesus Christ came into the world to take upon him the sins of the world. So that means because he was the only one that had the capacity to do this. I mean, good grief, he had immaculate conception, guys. Yeah, to have that kind of an entrance, yeah, that's an entrance to the world. I'm just telling you. Okay, there had to be something special about this guy. And consider the things that he taught. He understood so well what life is supposed to be. The gospel of Jesus Christ is literally there to help us get what we want. It's true. Now, you look at, people who are just on the warpath and are crazy destructive, crazy angry, crazy just ready to bomb everything. Now, I want to say that yes, there are limits to doing what we want. That doesn't mean that there's no justice and that God is just going to let crazy people rule the world. Absolutely not. He didn't create the world for crazies. He created it for those of us who really actually do just want to live a happy, joyful life, loving on the people that we're around, loving on our families, to create the most beautiful things we can possibly think of. And that's what I want. And that aligns with what he wants for us. He doesn't want El Crazy to go just destroy his creation that he's proud of. So that's why we have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the scriptures. It's due to they actually wanted destruction, so God gave it to him. Let's just say that. So, but I'm leaving that piece there because that's not where I want to focus. I want to focus on those of us who actually want a peaceful, loving, beautiful life, because that does align with what God wants for us. And so it's literally about creating what we want out of life. But then the adversary comes in and he tells us all of these lies to get us to stop progressing forward, to stop being creators, and instead to either become a destroyer or someone who's frozen in fear. Either way, he doesn't have to worry about us anymore. And that's right where he wants us. And so, how dangerous are we to him when we realize what love is and how love is powerful and it's influential, and it literally takes more and more people out of his misery. Something to think about there. So anyway, Christ comes into the world and he claims upon himself the sins of the world as though they are his own, as though he committed them. He's the only one that can hold that big of a problem. He's the only one, because he understood things so clearly and he lived those principles, hence the reason why a perfect life. We don't have that understanding, so we can't do that. And it's okay. We're not supposed to. We are supposed to live and navigate our ways through the roads and the canyons and the beaches and the sunny places of life. And that's what Christ is here to do, is to give us that road. So that way, as we're on our journey, we don't mistake the cliff for the road, hence getting us to our destination. And forgiveness is very much the decision to live within that road, to get us to that decision, that destination. That's what forgiveness is. It's the decision to let Christ, who understands exactly what we are going through, what life is like to the T, guys. He understands you. And I'm not going to sit here and try to prove that to you. I think that's something that you should go prove to yourself. And that's important, because when you decide to prove that to yourself, you're actually opening the door a little bit for some of this to come through. But if you're going to trust that Christ totally knows you and understands every little thing you've gone through and are going to go through, then you can trust him with the justice which he's already taken care of. He's already met the demand of justice. He gave his life, for crying out loud, for the demand of justice. And that was for those that choose to accept his justice. But for those that choose not to, they are literally going to have to deal with all of their stuff on their own. And as I got thinking about this, I realized even the people that have hurt me the most and have no remorse for their actions, I actually pity that. Like, it makes me sad for them. I don't want to wish someone else to have to go through hell just because they did something totally wrong to me. I actually don't want that. But as I got thinking about that, that means that, yeah, I kind of maybe wanted to see them suffer a little bit to change their minds. It's not because I want to see them suffer. It's that I want to see them come to truth. Therefore, the best thing I can do is to be love and truth. And just get out of God's way. Really, and allow him to discipline and teach his child. That's not my part. I'm the child, and he needs to be able to reach me, and so I want to be reachable. It's not about me giving justice to the other person. It's about me finding mercy for myself and allowing God to deal with the justice. So another way to explain this, okay, is if you and maybe this person that's hurt you, and as I'm talking, I guarantee you can think of someone immediately. And you're looking at this person and you're feeling all this anger and why did you do that? Like, what is your problem? Come up. And all this anger that gets stuck with the injustices of other people, you know? But that's not where we want to be, because if you're stuck in that, it's like quicksand. It's like spiritual, emotional, physical, mental, just quicksand. Because when you're stuck there, you can't move. And the more you dwell on it, the more it sinks you down and just consumes you. And so Christ comes in, he looks at you, and he looks at the person that hurt you, and he walks over to you, and he says, "Let the sin be upon me. Trust me that I've got this, that I can take this away from you, because I'm going to give you another angle. I'm going to help you turn your cheek." There's something. So that way you don't have to focus on this other person anymore. When you're focused on him or her, you can't see this beautiful room that you're in. You can't see the flowers on that table over there and how intricate and gorgeous and colorful they are. You can't see the banquet that's on this other table. You can't see this cool thing that I want you and want to help you create. You're too focused on the other person. Turning your cheek is to change your focus. But Christ comes in so we can focus on him for a minute. And he says, "Let the sin be upon me. Forgive me." Meaning, trust me that I've got this. Give this anger, give this situation to me, and just trust me that I can do better with it than what you're able to. And I can either give this person mercy or justice, depending on what they want, but either way, it validates you. Because if this other person chooses mercy, well, then they've decided to heal along with you. And so now no longer do you have an enemy, but you're both allies in Christ, allies in healing. That doesn't mean you're going to trust them immediately, but man, if they've really gone through that repentance process to be better and to have that mercy, they are going to do whatever it takes to clear the problem of trust. That's how they come through these boundaries. However, if they claim the justice and they want to have their justice as their own, then they will have to pay for the injustices that they placed against you. Either way, it will validate you.
So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
And so when we turn our cheek, we truly do just trust the Lord with it. That's what forgiveness means. The pain is for giving. It is not for keeping. It is for giving. So that way we can be for creating, for beauty, for Christ, and for love. So how does this whole thing play into my life? And how is it a boundary for me? Let me bring this back full circle. And it literally comes down to this, that I choose another one of my cores is forgiveness. Because I can focus then on creating love. See, I've had plenty of people step on my toes throughout my life, but I've also seen people that have held on to grudges for 40-something years, and how that has stopped them from feeling safe enough to be themselves without shame, completely unabashedly. And that also stops them from understanding their missions and purposes in life and who they truly are at their core. That's not what I want. That is absolutely not what I want. I really value joy because I know what it feels like to not have it for extended periods of time. And therefore, it's not worth it to me. And I think you guys can understand that. It's not worth it to me to trade my joy away for the anger. Yes, anger is a very powerful emotion, but if it's teaching you that you have to keep it in lieu of your joy, because you can't have both. That's not the way things work. Anger doesn't make you happy. We want to get rid of it at some point because it's heavy. But we can choose to be angry until the other person changes, or we can choose to let the anger teach us how we can solidify a boundary, how we can be more in love ourselves, and how we can show up more in our own life for ourselves, how we can have our own back, and how we can call angels and Christ and God to our flanks. We're not meant to do this alone at all. If we were, podcasts wouldn't be a thing. But I choose to also anchor myself in forgiveness because I don't want any of the stones that people throw at my boundary of love to be strong enough to break it. I'm happy here. I am really, really happy here. And because I'm happy here, I have people who are happy here with me. And I get to literally create my own little oasis of beauty. And before I go, I also want to mention, this beautiful Bible story of Joseph in Egypt and the forgiveness he had of his brothers. At the very beginning, he tested it to see if the forgiveness would hold. He wanted to see if he could actually bring them back into his circle. It's okay to test. He didn't just immediately stop it and be like, oh, well, yeah, they just threw me into a pit and tried to kill me, but hey, you know what? Let's just be best friends. No, he didn't do that. He wanted to know that he was safe, allowing them to be part of his inner circle again. And so he tested it. And it's okay if somebody claims that they have changed and they want back in, it's okay to test it, to see if they really mean it. Well, they did. And so Joseph forgave them. And I think that he understood this principle of forgiveness before this even happened, and he realized that for him to create his best life from pretty much only 2 specks of sand, he was sold into slavery and became the second in the kingdom of Egypt. Pharaoh only was more powerful than Joseph. And so that speaks to what we can create when we don't allow the actions of others to dictate our worth, our understanding of what we want to create, and our ability to move forward. It helps us protect the boundary of love, which we are at the center, and Christ is right there with you. All right, my loves, I hope that this was a great episode for you and that you have a much better understanding of what forgiveness is and how you can take that into your life. Definitely study it. Study what forgiveness is and how you can make that your boundary that protects your love boundary. Okay, my loves, next week we're talking about trust, which is a big deal because I know I get how do I trust this person again, and I want to put to you a whole new question next week. And hopefully you can see through this question maybe the direction of trust that you need to take. So, my loves, I hope you have a fabulous week. Until next time, mwah. Bye for now. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna be awesome. See you soon. Bye.